Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa and welcome back to Pro OverAnalyzed. Now, apologies for missing this yesterday, but we were still on a little bit of Doomfist hype train, so whatever. So what we're going to do today is look at a very special match. This is the final game. In fact, let me just play this while I explain what's going on. This is the final game between United and 123 in the Contenders EU final. This is a $50,000 game, this is. Whoever wins this takes all the money. Well, wins the series. This is one of the games within the series. However, what we're going to be looking at here is the use of MEI on attack. We will go through the entire game and I'll try and break down what's going on for you guys so we can kind of learn together, because it is very interesting breaking these pro level games down. Now, I want you to go into the comments below and tell me if you actually enjoy this series, guys, because I need to know if it's worth carrying on making this, because I like making it, but I want to know if it's worth you guys watching it, right? Because sometimes it's a bit high level. Like, I don't use any of these strategies really in my games, and well, you know, it's hard to do it unless you've got 6-man or, well, 6-player coordination, and it's pretty much impossible. So just let me know, guys, if you enjoy this, because I think I think the reason why I like to make them is because they let us look at the way the game is being played at the very highest level. I don't expect us to be able to replicate this, but I think it's fun, right? I don't know. You guys let me know. Anyway, let's get stuck into this. So, we've got United, who are the favourites for this competition, and then we've got 123, who are a relatively unknown team. And they are going to... In fact, let's pause this and let's just go over what's going on here with the teams. In fact, we'll just play because we've got 27 seconds left on the timer. So, what we've got here is we've got for United, we've got Boombox, we've got a Sombra, which is pretty standard in terms of dive defense, or even sometimes in terms of attack on 2CP with the pro gamers. We've got a Diva, we've got a Winston, we've got a Lucio, and we've got a Tracer. Now, Tracer is pretty much in every single game all of the time. And we're just going to pause this because something very interesting happens at the start of this game. So, what we need to look at now, and this is the most interesting bit, is 123's team. So we've got a Tracer, a Lucio, a Diva, a Winston, a Zen, and a Hanzo. Now you guys are probably thinking, why is there a Hanzo? Well, what they do with Hanzo is, you know the train over here? They fire a Hanzo sonic arrow into the train just in case their team are hiding in there to try and attack them as they come through, because sometimes pro teams do that. So this will change. But notice what Snillo changes to, because it is, well, it's beautiful. Check this out. So the game's about to open up. The gate's open. They come flying out. Sonic Arrow, you see it got fired into the train where the Diva just was. And then Snillo. But what's Snillo doing? Like, ignore what's going on here. What is Snillo doing? Look at this. That's a MEI. But where is he? He's actually hiding himself. Look, now he comes out. They don't know there's a MEI here. And guess what? Guess what's about to happen? Oh, yes, you know it. Now, let me pause this just to explain what's going on. This is why they have a Sombra, because they're playing around the large health pack in this tunnel. So, United hack the health pack. They all sit in the tunnel, or at least the big targets like the Diva and the Winston sit in the tunnel. Then they push out and poke the payload. They stop the payload because they're there contesting it, but they come back and get the massive health pack, which gives Sombra loads of charge so they can immediately EMP. But look at this. This is the perfect counter by 123 and Snillo on this MEI. It is caught the Diva. The Diva is screwed. They're absolutely wrecked. It is this was awesome. When I watched this happen, I'd never seen this before, and I'm like, wow, this is so clever. And this is what is the most interesting thing to me about all of Overwatch, when you see these mental tactics, these little variations. This is why watching Korean Overwatch sometimes can be very interesting. Arguably right now, it's not that great because it's just dive versus dive every single game. You know what the teams are going to be doing. You see again there, look, use the wall again. For some reason, Morte on the Lucio decided to go and push out into a choke like that where MEI can just wall you off, which was not clever. And then we see Sharrett get taken out with the pulse bomb. So yeah, this is looking pretty good right now for 123. But the question is, can they keep this going? Because MEI, now, where's her use? Her use is pretty much, well, it's not there, right? They're past the area where MEI is effective. So what we're going to see now is almost like a complete role reversal. Well, yeah, like a role reversal. Like, that was a nice shot there. We're going to see United really take the reins now, because the MEI is not as effective. She's not that far off a Blizzard, though, so she's going to be able to use it. You'll notice that if you look in the small picture-in-picture there, she's waiting for them to come through the tunnel so she can wall them off. Because, again, she will be effective there, but she needs to catch them at the right time. So she's actually walled them all off there. I think one of them managed to get through. No, they didn't, actually. So that was a bad wall there by the MEI. So what happened was she walled them all off. She's got lost the cooldown on the wall, and E United can come in on the re-engage. Now, let's see what happens, because remember, E United are one of the best dive teams. They come in with 2 kills straight away. They've pretty much stopped this now. These 2 kills in the kill feed mean this is over, right? You cannot win. If you lose a member in a team fight when it's a pro level game, you pretty much lose that engagement, unless you've got a ton of ultimates to use to bring it back. So what we're going to see now is 1, 2, 3 regroup. They're still on the MEI because they've still got the Blizzard, which they're going to go and look forward to use. E United, though, as I said, this is a pretty standard defense tactic here on Route 66, especially with the Sombra. It's dive with Sombra instead of Diva, or well, in fact, they've changed. Cruz has changed over to the Genji instead of the Diva, but it's basically dive without soldier. You know, it's not a triple DPS dive because Sombra is really a support. Anyway, we see this go in here. This is the big Blizzard goes down. Is it really doing anything? I'm not really too sure. EMP comes in, shuts everybody down, and they, well, they start getting kills, right? Snello's actually doing work. It looks like they're possibly going to be able to take this point. Or are they? Let's see what happens. They push forward with the Tracer, and yeah, the Tracer goes forward and decides to... basically, essentially what happens at this point here, you know that you've got the point, so you push forward with your flankers. Your Winston goes forward, your Tracer goes forward, your Genji goes forward. They go forward and they try and take up good positions to hit the enemy team with. I think I spoke about this a lot in OverAnalyzed videos in the past, where a lot of low-level players, what they do is once they've like won a fight or won an engagement, or they know they're about to capture a point and the enemy team are going to respawn further back, they tend to just stand around and not do anything. You should use that time to get a good position. You'll notice all of the pros do that all of the time. Like we watched the Tracer on Mistakes push forward because he was waiting for a great pulse bomb as they come through the door, or something to just shut down an attack. Because if you get a quick kill, it completely destroys their attack. However, you will notice something which has happened here. 1, 2, 3 have got rid of the MEI. It is now a Soldier 76. The reason for that is this area of the map is horrifically bad for MEI. Like, what can MEI do here? MEI only really works where she can wall you off. A lot of people thought that MEI would be an awesome counter to the dive comps. She's not really, because dive is very mobile, it's very flexible. So she can put a wall up and dive comps can jump around the wall, and it's great. She does work on certain maps though, and we've seen this work on Route 66 for the first point. Arguably, without the MEI, they might not have taken that point. They still could have, because if they went full dive against E United's dive, then it's just a case of who plays better. It's more of like a raw skill matchup, like who are going to do it. And on paper, you probably would say, well, E United are better, so that's probably why 1, 2, 3 decided to bring out the MEI to switch things up. And like I said a bit earlier, it is with the Korean teams. They kind of do funky stuff like this, or at least they did in the past. I remember there was a crazy strat with the MEI on... I think it was on Dorado, where they sort of went roof skating. It didn't really work out, and you could have argued it wasn't really worth doing it, but it looked flashy, it looked nice. And you could argue that right now, we are in a little bit of a stale sort of meta with Overwatch, because it's just dive, 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 and you don't really see any kind of flashy plays coming out, you know, like things I would say were really interesting plays, which I think is probably the backbone of this game. So hopefully it gets sort of changed up as time goes on. So what we're looking at here is E United basically getting pushed back through the entire... This is known as the Wild West phase. Now, this typically happens in pro-level games because this is much more in favour of the attackers than it is the defenders. If you wipe out the defenders leading up to the final, the first point capture, which generally you do. It's very rare that they run off with the whole team because, well, they'd contest the point. So what we're seeing here is pretty much what I'd expect to see of any pro-level game. It's very hard to stall a team. We've got Winston just battling it out with his Primal Rage. You know, this is just pretty much standard. But the Diva's been popped out of a mech. She's pretty much screwed. To be honest, I don't think you really should be chasing the Diva down. You just should leave her, really. There's no way she'd be getting back to the payload there. But I guess maybe you just wanted to make sure they were all dead so they could capture the point, because you never know. I mean, you look at the ultimates available on E United's side, and, well, they've got... Well, I thought they had Diva Bomb, but that was just Diva's mech. They don't really have anything. And now we're going into a phase with... into the final phase of... Route 66, and we can see that Mistakes has got his Pulse Bomb, which generally Tracers always do have the Pulse Bombs up. We've got Diva Bomb, we've got Winston Primal Rage. So what we're going to be looking for is to see if they can actually get a really good fight here and push E United back. This is the most difficult part of the entire map, and you could possibly argue MEI might have some use on this area of the map, but yeah, we don't know. So we've got a 1-for-1 trade there, which, you know, is not too bad. We're on board here with Cruz. He's jumping around just doing Genji related stuff, harassing the enemy. He knows he needs to get out now because, well, he's lost a lot of his team. Or he decides to pull his blade out because he thinks he can go Superman hero, and then he gets killed. In fact, that is a very good example there of throwing away your ultimate. That fight did not at any point need that ultimate because they were down, E United, they were down, right? So what he's thinking there as a Genji player is, maybe I can pull my blade out, and this is okay with me with hindsight, going, oh yeah, he shouldn't be doing that. Maybe I can pull my blade out and reverse the fight. Sometimes it does happen, and if it did happen, I'd be going, wow, what a great Genji play, but it didn't, and most of the time, well, it really doesn't, and now the ultimate is lost. So when we regroup for a more, let's say, standard engage, it's going to be more difficult now for E United to hold because they've got less ultimates. So what we've got here is, it looks like they're getting back together to form a pretty solid push now, 1-2-3, although they've lost their main tank, which is going to be a bit of a problem, which means that they probably won't be able to push this, so they're really going to have to back off. So this is the thing with this point, with this, and this kind of does extend to us when we're playing on ladder. Without a full team, it is very difficult to push through here. Like, you need everybody, right? Everybody has to go through. And you know what? Reinhardt might not be in the meta right now, but I really like playing Reinhardt on this point because you have to walk forward towards them, and the protection is there. Like, a Reinhardt and a D.Va combo is awesome. Winston probably still is better at the highest level, but don't just take what you see in these pro games with team comms, guys, as the accepted way to play the game. You know, I've said before, my accounts are around like a High Master and GM, and it's not like we play dive comp every game. We don't. Like, you see a lot of varied heroes. You see a lot of McCree, you see Symmetra, you see heroes that are not typically used, well, that are not ever used at the pro level, and that's because the pros have got another tier of communication which allows them to pull off these complicated dive comps. Well, I mean, dive comp itself is not too complicated. Typically, the way this works is you will have a main target shot caller. So either, let's take a United, for example, Sharik or Cruz, right? So the Genji or the Winston would be the main target caller. And what they would do is they would scream out a target, and both of these guys would go together. Sometimes the D.Va will follow this, sometimes the Tracer will. Normally, Tracer just operates on her own, but your Zenyatta, your Winston, and your Genji, they all work together in the dive comp, and they go around exploding targets. And if you're very well practiced in that, it's very easy to pull it off. Now, it's not exactly highly tactical. It's not like you're coming up with some crazy plan. It's just like, Zen, let's dive the Zen, 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 and they'll go in, dive the Zen. Those three work together with the Discord, the Harmony Orbs, and the Winston and the Genji diving in. As I said, sometimes the D.Va will go in and protect them, or sometimes the D.Va will stay behind and protect, like, maybe the squishy Zen, typically leaving Trace just to do whatever the hell she likes, and your Lucio sort of goes in. So that's kind of dive comp, and that's the way the pro level game has been played for a while. And I don't know, I find it interesting to watch, but it is hard, I think, for people who are maybe not as into Overwatch as I am, or people who are more casual, because it's so fast. It's like, and everything's all over, and it's like, wow, what has happened? We really don't know what's happened. And I think that's just a symptom of the fact we don't no longer have a heavy tank meta, because when we were in the triple tank meta, it was a much slower paced game because, well, there were tanks everywhere, and tanks don't explode people like DPS do. I guess on the other hand, you could argue it's more exciting watching DPS go in and blow people up. So let's just recap what we've seen in that first phase there. So E United managed to get the full hold. Well, it's not the full hold. They managed to get the hold. And in fact, just to clear that up, a full hold would be when you don't allow the enemy to even capture the first point. But they managed to stop 1-2-3 from finishing the map, which is a good achievement, but Route 66 is so difficult to finish. Yeah, you usually see this anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It's now up to E United to push the payload the entire way. So when we look at the defense that's been set up here for 1-2-3, we've got, well, it's a dive comp. I mean, there's no point me going over this. This is dive comp with Soldier instead of a, well, whatever other hero you'd want to stick in there, possibly a Genji. I think this is 1-2-3's problem. I don't think they've got a Genji player, but there you go. So we look across to the side of E United, and it's basically the same build, but with a, well, Genji. Basically, there you go. So what we're going to be seeing here is E United going for a typical dive sort of push. They're moving the payload, they're getting ready. Now watch what happens here, right? They will call targets out. So watch this, right? There's the Winston. Where's the Winston gone? Where's his backup? Actually doesn't have any backup just yet, which is pretty interesting, right? But he's uncontested. He's doing whatever he likes. You see something breaking out down the bottom here. This is a Tracer duel. We're on board now with Valataja. That's what Tracer does. She just goes away. And actually, he killed the other Tracer, so they're one man up already. Snillo's in a pretty bad position there in the gas station, which he really doesn't want to be. And you can see that E United have absolutely obliterated them. Cruz comes through the triple kill. And, yeah, that's because they all backed into this area. But the critical thing that happened there was Valataja beats Mistakes in the 1v1, and that opens it all up. But you watch the Winston dive in, and probably down to very good voice comms, the Winston was sitting here on top of Big Earls. didn't actually get any kind of backup from the Genji or anything like that because, well, he didn't need it because there was nobody up there and he could just sit there and zap them from below. So what they're looking to do now, United, is keep them pushed into the chokes, right? They know they're going to come out and try and contest, but they also know that it's going to be well within their favour because they've got the entire team together. And we can already see a kill's coming from Cruz onto the Zen, and a couple of other kills are coming through. Yeah, it looks like they managed to get a kill with a Diva onto the Winston, but it's not going to be enough, and that's going to be that. So what will happen now is watch the DPS. See the enemy there? Moving back? Watch the DPS go forward. Can you see them going forward? Yeah, they're going forward because now they want to get a good position. You'll notice that Lucio will stay on the payload. Everybody else pretty much goes forward. So they're trying to get ready to spam these chokes out, right? Because that's where they're going to come through. They'll either come through the top choke or the bottom choke. Most of the time, they'll come through the top choke because it's easier to come through. But you can see here, 1, 2, 3 are actually coming through the lower choke, which is maybe not as expected. And the reason for doing that is they don't want to get crushed in the other choke. So they push forward through quick. They're trying to get a good position, and they're absolutely getting battered back into this choke. So we're going to have to see what happens here. Sharik is using his Primal Rage, and he gets a kill, which is actually pretty huge. Valatage comes through with another kill, and Cruz gets another kill. This is why pros typically push through this area really fast, because they can just run straight forward, smash you as you come through the small chokes, and then do it again and again and again. Probably 1, 2, 3 will be able to get a fairly decent contest just as it comes around the corner here, but look how far it moves the payload. This happens all of the time, and this is a problem with maps where you've got these very small chokes. I'm trying to draw on the screen as they're moving, but we're on board with the Genji, so he's spamming the screen. That choke there, right? It's very small. Look what he's doing. He's just spamming into the choke. We do have Transcendence available there on the Zen, so he's probably going to have to use this to contest the payload. We're going to have to see what he does. I mean, I would imagine he will. Although we've got a kill there from Valatage onto the Soldier. So 1, 2, 3 don't really have that much DPS left. And there's the Trance, which has been forced out of the Zen there by the Genji player. So, yeah, we're going to see a bit of a contest. Now, it comes down to if they're going to actually be able to hold this for any length of time, and it looks like Mistakes has got a kill and Cruz has got a kill, which, you know, it's almost 1 for 1 here. Yeah, it's still pretty much 1 for 1, although it looks like, yeah, it looks like 1, 2, 3 are going to be able to hold this, and they get the stabilize. Now, this is the thing with Route 66 on this point. That is typically the only point, and I keep saying typically during this video because it's like the word of the video. That is the point where you can get good positioning on the enemy as a defensive team, because the offensive team are typically clustered below you and you can dive on top of them, and they can't really force you into the chokes as much. They kind of can, because you could argue there's not really any difference between them pushing forward at the first, you know, is to cap the first point to go and push the chokes, than there is when the payload moves around the corner. But for some reason, you'll notice a lot of the time the teams do get a chance to contest there. It might come down to the fact that they've probably got ultimates available at that point, whereas earlier on they don't have, and ultimates like Zen, etc. can push through very quickly. So we're just going into a brawl here. This is just a dive off. This is who can pick targets better than the enemy team, and this is why it's pretty hectic. You know, you watch this here from the overview. What's going on here? You can kind of see the two teams are sort of together. He's been killed by something. I think Genji got him with a headshot. Oh, Genji and Zen killed him, so probably was Discord Orb, took quite a bit of damage, but he instantly died, and it can be hard sometimes to see why people are just getting, like, deleted, because that's the whole point of dive. So yeah, we're looking here at probably a United cap on this point, because they're managing to take out all of the enemy team, and they don't have any ultimates available. United have got some. They've lost Boombox, but he's got Trance for the next fight. Sharik's got Primal Rage, although he won't have to use that at this point, and they should be able to bring it in. Notice his positioning though, right? Oh, actually, the enemy Winston's Primal Rage, so they might actually be trying to go for a pretty solid contest, but again, it's quite difficult, right? What you need to do here, yeah, you see they're coming out one by one. They're pretty much trickling in here, and with dive being based around target priority, and with United being such a good dive team, they're going to be able to wipe you out very quickly if you start trickling into the fight. What they were trying to do there, 1, 2, 3, is use the Primal Rage on the Winston to delay the payload to allow their other team members to get together in a ball and then push out and contest the payload. But obviously, it's kind of worked, but has it really worked? Because look at the ultimate economy of United. They pretty much have every single ultimate. That's bad news for 1, 2, 3 going into this phase, because this is a point where you're going to need great ultimate use to get through this, because it's a straight up fight. And like I said before, I do like using Reinhardt on these points, but pro teams generally don't. So yeah, we look at the team comps. They've not changed throughout this entire level. What is this, Mario? Throughout this entire, like, phase, because this is typically how it's played. And you can say, yeah, maybe this is stale, whatever. You guys make your minds up on that in the comments below. I enjoy watching it, but it is, I don't know, it's got pros and cons, I think. And anyway, the meta of Overwatch, it changes and whatever. And remember, the meta doesn't matter to us guys, really. It just matters to the pro gamers. Well, the pro meta does anyway. Things like Hog getting deleted with his nerfs, that matters to us. Right then, let's see what's going to happen. So they're finally starting to engage. Loads of ultimates are starting to be committed. It looks like we actually got the Diva Bomb now out of unfixed. We've got Genji going in with his blade, and they're trying to dive up very hard. You'll notice Lucio's used his sound barrier there. Lucio's sound barrier is used almost exclusively to engage the enemy in dive comp and at the pro level. You hardly ever see it used reactionary. It's not like, uh-oh, we're being bladed, I'm going to use sound barrier. Sometimes they will, but if Genji's pulled his blade out, that's the Zen's job to get his trans out and fix that. Sound barrier is an engagement ultimate. It can be used on like with its defensive or in a defensive capacity, but typically it's used as the ultimate. We pop that, Lucio player is going to be screaming, let's go, speed boost, and in they go, and it's like a massive ball of bang, which is, well, ball of bang, which is what E United do. So there you go. So yeah, they're managing to push this forward, and this is a problem now for 123, because if you look at the timer, they've got 1 minute left, which is pretty risky, right? Kodak does have his bomb, which he can use to push them back, and which he is going to use, but, you know, usually people do not die to Diva Bombs in pro-level games. You'll notice the Winston, actually that was not the E United's Winston, I was going to say he dropped his bubble. Winston will drop his bubble to give his teammates protection, and you'll see a lot of the time when the Diva Bomb goes in, they will prioritise burning down the bubble of the Winston to try and get maximum damage out of the bomb, but a lot of the time the pros just generally hide. You very rarely see deaths from it, and what we're seeing here is a very desperate situation now from 123 where they're all getting taken out, wiped out off the point, and that's it. They're not really going to be able to hold it, which is a bit of a shame considering their beautiful start to the game. So let's pause this and go over what we've just seen, or well, not go over it, just quickly summarize what happened. So we had a very interesting defense of off 123 using a MEI to counter dive comp on Route 66 first point, and it worked almost. I think there was a point where the wall off the MEI as they were coming through to contest, when the payload was almost at the first point, wasn't good enough. It didn't cut anybody off. It basically walled their entire team into a choke, and as soon as the wall dropped, they just pushed out of the choke and won the fight. Well, no, did they win the fight? I think they kind of did. It was pretty close, but it could have been a much better attack even. Yeah, what am I talking about? 123 were attacking. I'm off my face. It would have been a much better, a much smoother attack, but then you'll notice that they dropped off the MEI for the second point because, well, she's not really going to have much use there because MEI's all about cutting people off, and it's difficult to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought this would be an interesting one, a different one to do. And remember, this was taken from the finals of the EU Contenders. There is a link to the Contenders Twitch page in the channel below. Go and check that out. All of the VODs are there. You guys can check out. And this is the official Overwatch, well, it's kind of the only official Overwatch competition that's going on at the moment, from Blizzard, that is. I mean, there are other things like Apex, which goes on in South Korea, if you guys are interested in, but whatever, I've blabbed for enough time. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about these videos in the comments below. As I asked at the start of this video, do be detailed. If you enjoy them, I'll keep making them. If you don't, then I will try and make something else, I guess. Alright guys, I'm in Stylosa. You can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming. You can join the Discord, which is discord.gg/UnitLost, and I will catch you on the next one. Toodaloo.